Tech and clips.
Yeah.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out this performance by Voiceplay and Omar Cardona performing Bon Jovi's Wanted Dead or Alive, an acapella cover. Guys, I'm going to be honest, I've never heard the original by Bon Jovi, so I'm going in blind, with this one. Let's take a listen. Okay. Whoa. Yeah.
It's all the same. Only the names have changed.
Whoa.
Every day it seems we're wasting away. Another place where the faces are so cold. I drive all night just to get back home. I'm a cowboy on a steel horse I ride. I'm wanted, dead or alive.
Whoa.
I'm wanted, dead or alive.
Whoa.
Sometimes I sleep.
Okay, Jeff.
Sometimes it's not for days.
Yeah.
People like me always go their separate ways.
Well, sometimes you tell the day by the bottle that you drink.
Wow.
Sometimes when you're alone, well, all you do is think, yeah, I'm a cowboy.
Okay.
Steel horse I ride.
Yeah.
Wanted, dead or alive. I'm wanted, dead or alive. Oh, and I ride. Yeah. I want you dead or alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they still horse I
Well, I'm a cowboy on the steel horse I ride. I'm a wanted, dead or alive.
Okay.
Well, I walk these streets. I loaded 6-string on my back. I play for keeps. Oh, 'cause I might not make it back. Well, I've been everywhere.
Whoa.
Still standing tall. I've seen a million faces, and I've rocked them all. 'Cause I'm a cowboy. Yeah, I'm a cowboy. On a steel horse I ride, and I'm wanted, dead or alive, dead or alive.
Whoa.
Alright, I got the night on my side. Yeah, wanted, dead or alive, dead or
Wow.
dead or
Whoa. Okay. Voiceplay. Guys, let's just go through this, out of respect for the craft and for the the supporters. All right, guys. Yeah, so that was Voiceplay performing Dead or Alive, a cappella. Voiceplay, Omar Cardona, Bon Jovi cover. I mean, walking into this performance, like I said from the beginning, I had never, heard the original, and I feel like that actually made it hit differently. I mean that in a good way. I wasn't comparing it to anything. So everything I felt came purely from what Voiceplay and Omar Cardona delivered in the moment. I mean, right from the start, there's this stripped back almost haunting atmosphere. You can tell immediately this isn't going to be a typical a cappella cover. The way they build the instrumental, using just their voices, is seriously impressive. I mean, but more than that, it feels intentional, not gimmicky. The low bass tones act like a foundation. The rhythmic elements sliding naturally, and those layered harmonies create this wide, almost cinematic space. Then we have Omar Cardona. I mean, when he steps in vocally, I feel like that's where things really lock in. His voice carries a kind of controlled grit. It's not overdone, not overly polished. It has just enough edge to actually sell the emotion. What stood out to me is how he doesn't rush anything. He goes in, he lets phrases breathe, which gives the performance a reflective and almost storytelling sort of quality. As the song builds, as you listen to the song, you start to feel the scale expand. The group, I love the fact that they don't just stack harmonies for the sake of it. They shape, they go in and then they shape the dynamics, if that makes sense. I mean, the chorus also hits harder because the verses hold back. That contrast to me makes everything feel more powerful when it opens up. One thing that I really appreciate is how clear the emotions come through, even without knowing the song beforehand. I mean, you can definitely sense themes of distance, maybe loneliness, maybe life constantly moving. There is this subtle tension between strength and vulnerability that I feel like runs through the whole performance. And honestly, I feel like that is what makes this work so well as a first time listen. I mean, it definitely stands completely on its own, if you ask me. I mean, I also feel like it doesn't rely on nostalgia or recognition. It feels like fully realized in the piece, not just a reinterpretation. Guys, if I had to be completely fair, there are moments where the arrangement leans a bit heavy on that dramatic tone. It's very polished and cinematic, which might not be everyone's preference. If you like something more raw or stripped even further, it's very polished and cinematic, which might not be everyone's preference. If you if you like something more raw or stripped even further. But I feel like that's also part of its identity. So to me, it's not really a flaw, just a stylistic sort of choice. So yeah, overall, this felt like more than just a vocal showcase. It was definitely immersive, the kind of performance where you stop thinking about technique halfway through and just ride the mood and just ride the mood they are creating. Yeah, and coming in blind, I feel like that's probably the best compliment I can give. It made me feel like I don't need the original to actually connect with it, and I loved it. Guys, let me know your thoughts, let me know your perspective, let me know if you want me to do reaction to the original by Bon Jovi. I'll be so glad to do just that. Guys, if you're tuning in, if you're stuck with me to end the video, you're loved, you're very much appreciated on here. My name is Philip, and also the next music reaction. Take care, stay safe, and then peace out.